Hello everyone and welcome, and the coverage in the build-up to the start of the new ADNOC Pro League season continues here on Abu Dhabi Sports. And for the next hour we're going to guide you through what we think we can expect in another thrilling season, and the full English language coverage right here on Abu Dhabi Sports. And for this special programme I have a full house, a full team here in the studio with me. We have, of course, the legend of UAE football, Ibrahim Diaki, roving reporter and interviewer extraordinaire, Amy Gillingham, and, of course, the walking encyclopedia of UAE football, Pedro Correa. Welcome, one and all. I know we're all very excited to get started with a brand new season. Before we get into the teams and what we're going to expect, I just want to ask, from your points of view, your varying hats, different work jobs that you're going to be doing throughout the season, how you approach a new season. Ibrahim, as one of the top players that's ever played in UAE football, what are you doing on the eve of a brand new season? I suppose it's the most optimistic that anybody is just before the first game of the season.
Yes, Graham, first of all, I would like to tell you I'm very excited to be back here in the studio, and I can't wait for the season to start because of the recruitment that has been done by the clubs, and with the new category, residence category players who are coming in, I'm sure it will be a very exciting season.
So, Amy, for yourself, you're going to be out there as you have been in previous seasons at the stadiums. You're going to be interviewing the players, the managers, getting all the insights, getting the emotions, the atmosphere there. What are you doing over the next 24 hours or so to build up to kick-off?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me here today. It's actually quite nice to be in the studio for a change and not pitch side. A whole new experience for me, and I'm very grateful to be here. But in terms of my reporter role, I mean, there's so much that goes into it. So the standard research, transfer market, Soccerway, my true best friends at the moment, keeping up to date with obviously the pre-season, how that has gone, and also just looking at the transfer market window as well. I mean, that's key at the moment, seeing the players coming in. We also have a couple of weeks left, so it's really important to keep on top of that. But the most important as a reporter is building the relationships. So since during my time over the past couple of years, I've built quite good rapport with players, managers, media officers. So it's just trying to rebuild that rapport and reach out to the media officers in particular and go from there.
Pedro, similar story for you. Your dual hats of pundit here at Abu Dhabi Sports, but also commentating on a lot of match during the season. I guess for you, you're burying yourself in books and learning the stats.
Mostly in front of the CPU, Graham. First of all, also, it's very nice to be back with all the team here present today. It's going to be an exciting season. I am basically living in front of the computer right now, occasionally eating and sleeping, if I don't forget about that. But it's mostly in front of the computer, searching, researching. There are some new signings coming in. It has been somehow quiet transfer period this summer. Up until now, we still have 1 month, more than 1 month ahead. The window only closes on the 1st of October. But up until now, it has been a somehow conservative transfer window for the UAE clubs, even though with some exciting signings. And of course, these new players coming in, especially the young talent, we need to research a lot about them because they are not as well known as other big signings that the clubs have made, even the non-big clubs in the UAE Pro League scene. So it's going to be for sure an exciting season.
Exciting is definitely the word. Let's remind ourselves, though, of what happened in a dramatic season last season for a lot of the UAE clubs, both in the UAE and in the region as well, and what we think we can expect in the season ahead. No football fan is more optimistic than just before the first game of a new season. But it's the same for the players, the coaches, and everyone associated with all 14 clubs in the ADNOC Pro League. The new season always starts with nothing but hope and positivity, but how long it lasts is a different story for every club. Al Wasl, of course, are the team with the target on their backs. Their first league win since 2007 was completed with style and dominance,
and it was confirmed just a week after claiming the President's Cup trophy as well. But arguably one of their title rivals achieved a bigger milestone. Al Ain won the AFC Asian Champions League title, the first UAE club to do so since they last won it in 2003. With Al Wahda winning the ADIB Cup trophy and giving legendary player and captain Ismail Matar a fitting retirement send-off, the 2023-24 season was one for the ages. But now the question is, can everyone back it up this season? Al Wasl and Al Ain will be playing more than anyone in the UAE and in Asia. So do they have the squad depth to cope with the demands of a packed fixture list? Shabab Al Ahli, who finished as ADNOC Pro League runners-up, will join Sharjah in the new AFC Champions League 2. So the same questions about squad size apply to both of them. Despite winning a trophy, Al Wahda slipped to 5th by the end of last season, with Al Nasr just behind them. Al Jazira finished 8th, their worst showing for a decade, so they will be out to reclaim former glories, and the addition of former Arsenal star Mohamed El Neni may be the key. For the so-called smaller clubs, teams like Al Battay did way better than expected. 3 wins in a row to close out their season saw them finish 7th. Corfacan, Banias, Kalba and Ajman all survived, but will be on a mission to improve this time around. And of course, we have 2 new teams in the top flight. Emirates Club and Hatta were relegated, and in their place we have fresh new faces from Dibba Al Hissan and Al Aruba. Their prime directive will be to stay up, but they know the task in front of them, with UAE club football seemingly entering a new golden age. Last-minute winners, stunning saves and heart-wrenching drama all lay ahead, but the eventual champion could be anyone, which is one reason why the ADNOC Pro League is so very special.
Yeah, it's no underestimation to say it could be almost anyone who wins the league this season. It does make this ADNOC Pro League so very special. But coming into it, I guess we have to start with the champions, Al Wasl. Pedro, I'll let you talk about them first. It was such an achievement for them last season after so long of getting closer but never really crossing the line, never really threatening by the end of the season. Now they do have the target on their back. They're the team to beat, aren't they? No UAE club has gone back-to-back except for Al Ain. I think 2012, 2013, they went back-to-back. It's a big task for them. Have you seen signs over the summer that they are going to react to that pressure?
Yes, the history tells us that, as you said, pretty well. It's very hard to retain the title. And plus, on top of that, it's not just the fact that they have the target on their back, it's also and mainly the fact that they will have a busier schedule and a more demanding schedule mostly. At the same time, the winter transfer window tells us that they did surgical signings, and that's a good sign. So basically, they increased the squad depth. With the 2 players, two very important UAE internationals, Majid Surur from Sharjah, defensive midfielder, and Tahnoun Al-Zabi from Wahda, an offensive midfielder, to increase the squad depth. They also signed a defensive midfielder, a Serbian, Srdan Mihailovic, and also the Japanese right back, Ochino, for 2 positions where eventually they needed also some fresh talents, having in mind that Poblete, the defensive midfielder, left. So I think they approached the market in a good way. They kept the coach, and he did an amazing job, a very young coach. The first season in the UAE, winning the league with Al Wasl after almost 20 years, and also the President's Cup, let's not forget about that. So I think if in one way Al Wasl has a huge challenge ahead, and the other way I think they are well prepared for the challenges they will be facing.
Ibrahim, we're seeing pictures of them on their summer camp. They went away to the Netherlands, 10th of July, came back on the 1st of this month. How important are these summer camps, especially for big teams like Al Wasl, who, as we heard in that report, they have so much football that they're going to play in the season ahead?
Great place of choice for the camp because I've been in the Netherlands. They have great infrastructure. It is a quiet place where you can focus on the trainings and Al Wasl. I would like to add something what Pedro was just saying. Let's not forget that they have a great 2021 squad also. They have like really young, talented players who can take over in case some first-team players are injured. But I think Milos, with what he did last year, I'm sure this season is willing to do double. And it will be actually two challenges. Al Wasl, being the champion of the country, they will have a lot of, they become the target.
Yeah.
Many teams would like to beat them, but Al Wasl also has one target, is to beat the champion of the Asia.
Yeah.
To confirm the supremacy and to show how strong they are. So I'm sure they have the squad, they have the players, and I think they need to be more focused and do kind of same they did last year, but double the efforts.
And that fixture that you're talking about, the game between Al Wasl and Al Ain, is one of the first 5 fixtures for Al Wasl this season. Amy, you're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to have full live coverage of Al Wasl's first match, by the way, tomorrow away at Kalba. You're going to be there as well. Let's look at the first 5 fixtures then for the club. Away at Kalba, at home to Dibba Al Hissan. Then they go Dubai Derby against Al Nasr, then the big one against Al Ain, then Corfacan. A lot of different types of teams they're coming up against early on.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, the 2 core fixtures there is definitely against Al Nasr and Al Ain, but they cannot underestimate Ittihad Kalba. We've seen time and time again throughout last season how much they challenged the higher end leagues and also the higher end teams. Already in the Cup last week, we saw them give Al Ain a really tough job. It ended 3-2 to Al Ain, but it wasn't an easy run for Al Ain at all. So I think that's going to be a really challenging fixture to open the season for Al Wasl. And Milos Milojevic, he did say in the press conference that we cannot underestimate them. And also they've got one of the best wingers in the league as well in Gayedi. So a tough game for the champions to start with.
Tough season ahead, of course, as Ibrahim was saying. They have the target on their backs, Al Wasl. How they start is going to be crucial for them. Also, how Al Ain start moving on as well. They are the Asian Champions League winners as well, of course, this season, so they'll be defending that title. They were off, Pedro. They went to Morocco for their summer camp with Hernan Crespo. And as Ibrahim was saying, it's a real time for them to bond. They've made a couple of additions to their squad as well, but essentially Hernan Crespo has tried to keep the Asian champions winning squad together as much as he can.
I would go there, Graham. I think their major signings up until this moment is keeping Laban Rahimi up until this moment. Of course, the adding of the Portuguese central defender Fabio Cardoso to strengthen the back line, and also Matias Segovia, the Paraguayan winger, who's pointed out to be a very promising player in the future. I think it's also a sign of what they can do. Plus, Sekou Baba coming in from Bataya. It's one of an interesting point of this summer transfer window is the fact that we have some interesting domestic transfers. And that's not usual, especially the importance of this domestic transfer window, the domestic transfers. Sekou Baba was one of the key players for Bataya. Let's see how he will be doing at Al Ain. But mostly, as I said, keeping the talent they had before, Matias Palacios, Kaku. It's very important for Al Ain. They were very successful at the Asian level. They were crowned champions. They did not do as well domestically. And that's a question both for Al Ain and Al Wasl. Will they be prevailing one competition over another? Will they be going for all the competitions? Will they be rotating on the domestic cups and focusing more on the League and Champions League? These are questions to be answered throughout the season.
And I would like to add one player more, Matteo Sanabria, who just signed, I think you forgot to mention him. Very talented player. Very great left leg, and he can do a lot of, he can benefit a lot for Al Ain because I saw how he moves in the field, smart player, and he knows how to use the space. And I think that addition to the team will be very beneficial for Al Ain. Yeah,
the young left winger there from Argentina, Amy. He's an exciting talent, but he joins an exciting squad as it was already. As we saw last season, you have to be a good squad if you're going to win the Asian Champions League, but the likes of Eric Jorgens, Laba, of course Rahimi was arguably their standout star as well last season. How are these new players going to fit into that system?
I think one good thing with Elaine, they've actually retained a lot of the key players, and I think Soufiane Rahimi has been on the radar for many, many clubs out there, in particular after his Olympic performance. He was the top goal scorer for Morocco, and he's just been outstanding since the AFC Champions League. So I think it will be quite challenging for some of the new players to perhaps slot into a well-oiled team already. However, they've got some key players that they can learn from, you know, the likes of Labakojo, Rahimi, Eric Jorgens, Bandar Alabawi. You know, there's some brilliant stars out there that will certainly help guide the new players.
Let's look at their first 5 matches then. Ibrahim, I think Alain will be quite pleased with their start to the season. At home against Corsican, away at Al Batay, and then home again against Calba. 3 games that they will be confident of getting something out of. And then it is the big game against Al Wasl, and then they're away at Al Wahda. And we'll talk about Al Wahda in a moment, but they'll be one of the teams, Al Wahda, who'll be looking to challenge for the title as well. But for that start to the season for Alain, they'll be quite happy with that.
Yes, Graham, just being Alain is not easy. Already is one of the strongest team in the country. The fact that they won the Asian Cup put more, you know, as I said, target. They will be the target also in this season. But I would like to mention one thing. If you see the signing that they did, it looked like Alain is not willing to stop anytime soon. They're willing to go more for more title, for more cups. And Alain doesn't pick games, so doesn't matter who will come in front of them. I know that Alain that I played, they will always want to fight to win. So it's like the regulation and the rules there. You don't have the chance to lose. You have to win always. So I'm sure with the squad that they're having now, it will be very, very difficult for the opponents.
Pedro, let's take a look at the top 5 players last season for Alain, and also in respect to some of the players coming in. Often during the summer, fans can be a bit frustrated there isn't transfer, but quite often the clubs now like to start their new season with the few players that they brought in, see how it works, and then decide if they want to bring anybody else in. But really, arguably, these 5, as we were talking about, they were outstanding last season, and to bring anybody new in, they have to fight for their place.
Definitely, because quoting Jose Mourinho, Alain has football heritage. It was what Ibrahim was saying. They are always candidates to any trophy that they will be in. So, of course, these players were very important last season. We don't know, because some of these players arriving now, like I said, Matias Segovia, for example, he's a young talent, and Seko Baba, same. We don't know if they will be regular starters, at least in the beginning. Plus, we have the transfer window still open until the 1st of October. There is a lot to be dealt with. Alain, in the meantime, not only will start with the league, but they will also start the AFC Champions League campaign. And that will eventually change something. There's still time to have more signings on board. But yes, they have already, as we all said before, they have already a very good structure. Relying on those players were the backbone of the team last season. And of course, all this talent that is coming in will be adding for sure to this existing squad.
And sorry, also, I would like to mention again, same like for Al Wasl, I checked the under-21s also. They have like quality players who are young, who can replace also in case there is some injuries or so. The coach he has is really fortunate to have that squad also.
And also worth noting as well, Pedro's first mention of Jose Mourinho in Portugal came in at about 10 minutes. So that's pretty good for this season.
It's a bit late.
That's a bit late, yeah.
Should
Speaking
be done
of
by 5.
Portugal, Shabab Al Ahli's manager is Portuguese, Paulo Sousa. They'll be frustrated after last season. I think out of all the clubs in the top division, they finished 2nd in the league. They were very much in the title race. They were the defending champions as well. Came away with no silverware at all at the end of the season. But they do have a very, very experienced manager at the helm now, Amy, and it will be the mission there at that stadium to have some silverware by the end of this season.
Oh, absolutely. And I think last season they were always chasing Al Wasl's tail. And obviously, as a rival Dubai club, that must be a little bit of a bitter taste for them right now. So with the likes of Paulo Sousa coming in, I mean, he's got a real wealth of experience with the likes of QPR, Swansea, Leicester. He's also got national team experience with the likes of Poland. So potentially he could be the man to turn things around and get them back to winning ways.
They've made a new signing as well, Shabab Al Ahli, a significant one. He's a very experienced player, of course, Sardar Azmoun. He's played for AS Roma, he's played for Leverkusen. He goes straight in. He'll be arguably their first choice attacker straight away.
Definitely, he's a great signing from Shabab Al Ahli. Sardar Khalil is the type of striker who give more volume for any team where he play, because he knows how to call the ball deep, he knows how to use the space, and I like the fact that sometimes also he can drop back in the midfield to try to play with the midfielder, then go back in front for the finishing. And I think having a player like Kartabia just behind him will give more volume for the offensive line of Shabab Al Ahli. He's a very dangerous striker. We've seen already in the Champions League, from the first game already, he scored. So he's a great signing, and I'm sure he will be very crucial for the defenders in the league. And the defender better pay attention to him, because he's somebody who can make the difference at any time.
And his experience matched by the manager. Obviously, Pedro will let you talk about Paulo Sousa. Look at his experience, though. Look what's already on his CV in terms of clubs. And it's not just the names of the clubs. It's such a varied locations as well. So he's well used to coming into new situations in new places. How's he going to handle this?
I think he's going to handle it pretty well, because besides his experience as a coach, he has also an amazing
Or maybe because
experience.
he's Portuguese.
I would
Always
not want to go there, but you guys force me, I will go there. And also because he's Portuguese, so that's of course important. But no, mostly his experience as a player is also amazing. Back-to-back Champions League winner with two different clubs, Borussia Dortmund and Juventus. He was the first, let's say, modern defensive midfielder in the quality, in the build-up, etc. And he's backed up by a very good squad. I think in terms of the transfer window movements, I think Shabab Al Ahli had the most impactful signings, I would say. Of course, Ali Mabhout is an impactful signing. We'll go there later. But they also signed Gaston Suarez from Banias. A very experienced midfielder already in the UAE Pro League. Also, Iago Santos, he was playing for Shabab in Saudi as central defender, so strengthening that back line. Plus some interesting young talent like Sultan Adel from Kalba, UAE international striker. It's interesting the way they are building up a team that has lots of good Brazilian talent, also young Brazilian talent, good Emirati wingers. It's not just about Paulo Sousa, I think it's about the whole thing. They are doing it quite well, and I think they will be a very, very strong title competitor this season.
Also interesting, we'll look at their first 5 fixtures as well now, but for Shabab Al Ahli, while everybody did play the first round of the ADIB Cup last weekend, Shabab Al Ahli have also played a couple of significant games. They were trying to qualify through the playoffs for the new AFC Champions League Elite. Didn't work out, but they will play in the Champions League 2. But it means that they've already played some important games this season already, Shabab Al Ahli. But let's talk through their first 5 matches. At home this weekend against Al Battay, away to Ajman, away to Wahda, and then at home again 2 weeks on the trot to Al Aruba and then Banias. Interesting games?
Absolutely, and I think, you know, just going back to the transfers and signings that they've made, you can really see how serious Shabab Al Ahli are taking it this season. I know that Kurt Zuma did fail coming over because he did fail his medical, but there are big names that they're looking at. So, you know, they're looking to spend the money. They're also recruiting the younger players as well. Umar Keita, also from Emirates Club. He has a real physical dominance. He did have with Emirates last season a very physical dominance on the pitch, and he could just be a bit of a secret talent for them. He's not a huge name, but they're certainly taking the new signings very seriously, and I think that perhaps is all to do with the AFC Champions League too. Yeah,
so they will certainly want to be challenging for the league title and the other trophies. Another team, of course, will be Al Wahda, who again were in the battle for the title last season. For a lot of it, fell away at the end, but they did win the ADIB Cup. Ismail Matar got that send-off that we're all so delighted that he got. But they have a new manager as well. We're just seeing there they went for their summer camp to Serbia. But their new manager is from Norway, which is very unusual. They've obviously had Dutch coaches before and various others, but this is very unusual. It shows to me that there's perhaps trying something new at Al Wahda, which may be the difference for them this season.
Yes, Coach Ronnie has experience. I think he was the coach of, I believe he was the coach of Celtics.
Yeah.
And New York City and Standard Liège, of course. This is a great CV for him, and I'm sure Al Wahda is looking for a new fresh air and see new possibilities in, to improve the level of the team. So why not? Ronnie can give his experience to the team, and I think it might work. Last year we saw a great Al Wahda who was very comfortable in the field, very confident and consistent in all the games. So I think this season they might repeat the same. And what was missing in Al Wahda was the finisher, the striker in front. But I'm sure they probably will find a solution for this season.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the striker up front. We're looking at Philip Oteli, the new signing who's going to be storming down the right wing. But Omar Kribin ended up as the league's top scorer last season, despite not being an out-and-out striker. It was kind of the story all season for him, wasn't it, that this wasn't the position that he particularly wants to play in. Yet he ended up scoring 18 league goals last season. And with the likes of Oteli helping him now, he could do that again, couldn't he? He could be over 20 goals.
Definitely. He's a prolific goal scorer. He has been in the country for quite a while, so he knows his ways around the UAE probably quite well. I wonder if, because Wahda also signed Sasa Ivkovic, the central defender from Banias, with great aerial dominance. And having in mind that they also have Lucas Pimenta and Ala Zahir, I wonder, and because also we have a new coach coming in and Al Wahda has not played officially yet, I wonder if they will play with 3 in the back and how much of that, if that happens, will affect their style of play. The problem with Omar Harbin is for him not being a typical striker, a referential one, that kind of striker that will live only inside and around the box, helps the team a lot in the build-up and in creating chances, and especially when the team drops a little bit their lines and plays a little bit more in the counter-attack or the transition. But it's a little bit more complicated for them when, for example, they are playing home against teams that are defending deep and compact. This is where the problem comes in, and when many times they need more presence in the box, especially aerial presence. Because if they have the spaces to play, then Omar Harbin will clearly do the job. If they don't have the spaces to play, this is where having Omar Harbin up front will force eventually the coach to have a different game plan in order to feed him and for him to score the goals that he usually does.
And you mentioned Lucas Pimenta. He scored the cup-winning goal, didn't he, against Alain? He's become one of the main spokespeople as well for the club. Often in the interviews that you're doing after the matches, Amy, it's Lucas Pimenta who's put forward to speak, and he speaks really well. Let's look at their first 5 games then, and there's a couple of weeks of matches before there is an international break. Al Wahda at home against Ajman, away at Khor-Fakkan. They'll be licking their lips that they might get points out of those 2 games. But then when they come back, look at the run they have to go on. At home to Shabab Al Ahli, Amy, and then away at Banias and Abu Dhabi Derby, and then a repeat of the cup final against Alain. Those are 3 tough games early in their season.
Yeah, absolutely, and in particular against Alain. I mean, the rivalry between those clubs, we've seen it get bigger and better year after year. And, you know, as a fan, as a reporter, as pundits, as a presenter, that's exactly what we want to see. They're the big games, and that's what most spectators do look forward to. But it'll be interesting this season to see how Al Wahda adapt. And I think, in particular, looking at the previous season, perhaps 2 seasons, they've been really inconsistent in terms of keeping their manager. And of course, that's always going to ruffle a few feathers with regards to the players perhaps feeling a little bit unsettled, not really knowing what their role is, the strategy, the tactics. So perhaps Ronnie might come in and hopefully he'll be there for the long run. And I think that's exactly what Al Wahda needs.
Of course, just down the road from Al Wahda is Al Jazira, who will probably want to forget last season. They finished 8th in the league overall. Wasn't a good showing from them, and no other silverware at all. They went off to Spain for their summer camp, and they've made a lot of changes as well over the summer. Interestingly, and one of the biggest names to come in to the league this season, of course, is former Arsenal star Mohamed El Neni. He played his first game for Al Jazira in the Cup last week, came away with the Man of the Match award already. He is key, the Egyptian. I was there for this game and he was controlling things already. He's got to get used to the heat, but already he seems a significant addition.
Yes, definitely is a great signing because El Nini has enough experience to put that stability that Jazira was looking for, especially having next to him the young player Koulibaly. I think that combination will be really helpful for the team. But him, with the experience that he has, I'm sure he'll be able to guide the young players and to impose, to show his leadership in the team, which will help the team to be more stable. And also the signing of Ramon Mirez.
Scored on his debut last week.
Great signing also because I watch his videos, I watch some of his game. Very, very dangerous striker. At any moment, he can make also the difference. And I think, I feel like Jazira will be more stable this season, especially tactically, because Amuta is not a bad coach. I saw his experience also. So it will be very important for Jazira having him as coach.
Watching Mirez, he had a certain air of Sebastian Tagliabue about him watching him. It was very similar. But let's stick with El Neni, Amy. That experience coming from 6-7 seasons at Arsenal, one of the top teams in the world. How do you think he feels coming to Al Jazira? He looked like he loved it. He put in a man of the match performance. How important is he going to be to Al Jazira on and off the pitch?
I think for me, he was the key signing of the season so far. Yes, we have a good month to go, but El Neni's a huge star in regards to his experience, but also it's not just his experience at Arsenal, it's the years he has been at Arsenal. For example, the tail end of his career at Arsenal were the years where Mikel Arteta has really, really raised the profile and got them playing to where they should be, which is fighting for the Premier League title. So he will be bringing in that experience fresh from playing last season to then into Al Jazira, and I think it's exactly what they need. You know, of course, Ali Mabkout has now said farewell to his boyhood club. He's now moved to Al Nassr, which is a great signing for Al Nassr, but I think Al Jazira really needed a big name to replace Mabkout.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that, but obviously it's not just the players, it's the new manager. He's a significant name as well, Hussein Amuta, isn't he, for football in this region as well. He's a fascinating signing for the club.
Definitely. I think Jazira will continue to do eventually even better than last season offensively, despite the fact that they lost Ali Mabhout and they will have to replace him somehow, individually and also collectively. But my main concern with Jazira has to do with the defensive part of the game. I believe Jazira, in order to be successful this season, and having in mind that I believe that offensively they will do well in any case, they need to improve their defensive record, the defensive transition mostly, and also defensive organization. That is something that I believe the new coach will have also to work on it. But as we saw with Jordan, offensively in terms of the playing style, it's even exciting to watch Jazira. I think they will do quite well. Plus, they don't have the international competitions. So that might also come into play in order for them to focus more in the league and try to do well and improve their rank, because last season it was not a good season for them domestically.
Sometimes as well, I think if you have a talismanic player like Ali Mabkout at the club and all roads lead to him at the front of the pitch, when he leaves, it could sometimes open it up for other players who are perhaps weren't getting the chances. And, you know, it's their chance to shine maybe this season. Ibrahim, let's look at Al Jazira's first 5 games. They start this weekend with a Abu Dhabi derby at Bani Yas. Then they're at home for 2 matches in a row, Al Aruba. Then they're against Sharjah. Then they're away at Al Nassr. And then they're at home against one of the new boys this season, Dibba Al Hissan. How will they be approaching those first 5 games?
Not the easiest schedule. I think Jazira, they're looking for the stability that they didn't get last season. So it will be very important for them to start all the game with 100% focus, because they don't have the right to make any mistake, because we saw some loss that they did, for example, against Korfakan or Ajman. I'm sure they're very well aware of that. So they will have to be more prepared to start all the games with more focus and try to make sure they can get as much as possible victories.
Okay, let's move on then to up the road from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. And Al Nassr always seem to be just a little bit frustrating, don't they? They often have these fantastic players, a wonderful squad. For whatever reason, just doesn't come together. They finished 6th last season. They played some terrific football along the way, but they all look to improve as they always do. They were in the Netherlands for their summer camp. And as we've been talking about, Pedro, they now have Ali Mabkout, the UAE's all-time leading goal scorer, in their ranks.
So if you are talking about scoring goals, who better than Ali Mabkout to join your team? I think not only what he does on the pitch, of course, and he's an amazing goal scorer. You just said it, all-time goal scorer in the UAE Pro League scene. But it's also, I wonder how much this will improve the morale of Al Nassr, will make them a more confident team, a more assertive team in terms of their offensive performance. As you said, and we already watched a little bit of that in this first match, by the way, commentated by Amy. We saw already again the possession, that typical Dutch playing style by coach Alfred Schroeder. Then it's about getting into the last third and scoring goals. They need to be more assertive, and they have now Ali Mabkout, and let's not forget about Manolo Gabbiadini, also a prolific goal scorer. So for me, Al Nassr, along with Al Wahda, are the most intriguing teams for the season. How well they will be able to do, because these are two clubs with a big history. Al Nassr is the oldest club in the country. Two clubs with a very big history, but we are always expecting a little bit more from them. Of course, Al Wahda last season won the ADIB Cup. Al Nassr finished in a better mood than what they started, but let's see what they will be able to do now in this new season, keeping the same coach and adding some interesting talent. And let's not forget also about Adel Tarabt, for me, technically, probably the best player in the league, technically.
A bit more, Amy, on the battle up front. Who's going to start? Who's going to be the main striker? Alfred Schroeder, he's retained his position at Al Nassr, which is great to see. It means he can build on what he's already started. Gabbiadini and Ali Mabkout, I think Schroeder's already come out and said Ali Mabkout is the main man for me. He's going to be the one that we're going to try and bring everything through. But those are two good options for him to have, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. And just referring to Alfred Schroeder, I think he's a great manager for Al Nassr. We saw his record at Al-Ain. Of course, it didn't work there, but, you know, he took on Al Nassr and he really turned things around last season for them. With regards to the battle up front, I think it's great if you have a bit of healthy competition. Gabbiadini obviously was the key man last season. Ali Mabkout's now slotted in. He started the game in the Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank Cup, and he started in a very similar position as he did with Al Jazira. You know, very, very far up the pitch, waiting for that ball to be popped over the top, and he did create a few opportunities. I mean, if we look at their performance last weekend against Al Aruba, in the first half, there were actually no shots on target. However, their possession was 76% in that first half. I mean, the way they created the passes and the movement towards the final third was excellent. The only thing they need to work on right now is just their clinical ability in front of goal.
They're going to get another chance to play Al Aruba in their first game of the season. By coincidence, their cup opponents are also their first ADNOC Pro League opponents. Ibrahim, let's look at Al Nassr's first 5 games of the season. So they start against Al Aruba, then they're at home and the visitors are Banias. Then there's the international break, and then they've got some tough games. It's the derby, Al Nassr against Al Wasl. Then Ali Mabkout goes up against his former club, Al Jazira, and then they're away at Ajman. Those two matches there, almost in the middle, they're crucial, aren't they?
Yeah, Al Nassr is one of the most experienced team in the league. So I'm sure they will not have any problem trying to start well, especially having Ali Mabkout in the front line. They have more confidence now, and as Amy mentioned, now the last time when they played, they had 76% of ball possession. So this, we all know that that's their quality. So Ali coming in the front line will be much easier for them because they can keep the ball in the right way. But the only problem they were having is the finishing. And having Ali in front there, I think most of the team, they better be prepared.
Okay, let's move on then to Sharjah, who, quite similar to Al Nassr, you expect more from them than they eventually produced last season. They were away in Austria for their summer camp. Last season, They finished fourth, 10 wins, 12 draws, just 4 defeats. Talk about Sharjah last season. They're a bit similar to Al Nasr, as I say. They can be frustrating. They can be brilliant, and then sometimes they just don't get the results that they need to, and consistency as well.
Yeah, mostly they were the king. They are the king, and last season they were also the king of draws. They drew lots of matches. Of course, they have the experience and the quality of Cosmin Olaroyo, the most decorated coach in the country, and right now the longest-serving coach in the country since November 2021. They have that 14 trophies only in the UAE for Coach Cosmin. In terms of the transfer window, only Paco Alcácer returning back from his loan at the Emirates club and assigning David Petrovic, the Serbian left back. But they have Caio Lucas there, they have Osman Camara, Luan, Shaheen, the central defender, So they have experience and they have quality to pose a threat to the title contenders. If they will do so or not, it's something that we'll have to be looking for. They will be playing in the Champions League too. And mostly, Cosmin is a specialist when it comes to the domestic trophies, the cups. He's a specialist. So, yeah, expecting some silverware for Sharjah. Which silverware, I don't know.
Ibrahim, talk about Cosmin a little bit more, if you will. This is his 3rd season at Sharjah. As Pedro was saying, he's an immense figure in UAE football, physically as well. He will be demanding more from his team this season.
Having a maestro like Cosmin, I call him the maestro. He understands exactly how the league works. The strength of Cosmin, he knows the weaknesses and the strength of his opponents. So it makes it easier for him to put the right tactic in place to always beat the team. He's the most decorated coach in the Gulf region. He is the coach who won most titles ever. So I think last season, I'm not sure if he's too satisfied with the performance of Sharjah, but I'm sure this season, it might be a surprise it might be a big surprise for most of the teams.
Okay, let's look at their first 5 fixtures of the season. It's interesting, Sharjah's first 5 fixtures. They don't have to travel too far for most of them. Most of them are in or around Sharjah itself. They play Al Jazira in the middle, but Amy, they start away at Dibba Al Hissan, then at home against Kalba, home against Al Batay and Al Aruba. It's quite a friendly little local league that they're almost having for the first 5 games of the season. Yeah,
it certainly is. So it will be a Sharjah derby for the first 2 opening games of the season. I think just referring back there to what Diaki was saying, I think, you know, it is key to get a bit of sustainability within the club. And I think having Cosmin there over the past few years, it just lets him know the ins and outs of the club. He's obviously retained a lot of their key players as well. He hasn't really recruited that much as of yet. Obviously, as Pedro said, Paco Alcácer, he's come back from the Emirates club. But I think perhaps he's just going to look after the core players he has and just build on that.
Yeah.
Was a frustrating season last season. However, there was a little bit of a glimmer of hope as they did qualify for the AFC Champions League too.
What will be the expectation within the club? It's often different between the manager and the club itself.
I believe to compete. When you finish far from the top, like they did last season, I think the first step you should be thinking about is to compete, to be close to the top. Because we know usually, especially the league, is decided by the end of April, around April to May. So if you keep yourself close to the top until that point in the season, then you can eventually go for the trophy. The thing is, if you fall too far behind since the beginning, then it makes it very hard for you to climb back. And I believe it's going to be a marathon more than a 100-meter race here for Sharjah. And they have the proper manager to do so, even though, again, they are not having a busy transfer window, not at all. Probably the most quiet transfer window, I believe, of all the clubs in the UAE Pro League. I think they have enough to be competitive and to challenge for the titles, the domestic ones mostly, and who knows, even the international title.
And one thing I would like to add, from the beginning of the season, Cosmin, he doesn't sign the player from the beginning of the season. He always open that room that for the second round, he can recruit the players. They want to see from the first 6 months how his team is moving. Then from there, he can know where to make the changes.
Okay, so that is Sharjah. Arguably, those are the title contenders, those teams. Let's look at what we'd call the mid-table teams, but they can cause shocks. And let's look at Banias, Ajman and Kauba. Banias, remember, wasn't so long ago. They finished second in the league and were fantastic under Daniel Isila as well. But these are three teams, Amy, that can cause shocks, can cause upsets. They will want to have good cup runs as well, and just see how they fare. They will, all three of them, look to just steadily progress, I guess.
Absolutely, and they're three teams that we typically see just steadily going along mid-table, but they always cause problems for the bigger clubs. And it always feels perhaps that the bigger clubs think, oh, you know, we've got Banyas, Ajman, Ittihad Kauba, you know, we should get the win here. And I feel that these clubs can sometimes be underestimated. In particular, Kauba, I think, you know, last season they really showcased what they can do against the likes of the bigger clubs. In particular, Daniel Besser, Philip Kiss, and also Mehdi Gaedi. I think in the midfield, they cause a lot of problems for most teams within the Pro League.
Let's look at the two newly promoted ones as well. What do we know about them? What can we expect from Dibba Al Hissan and Al Aruba? Al Aruba have been in the top flight once before. For Dibba Al Hassan, this is total new territory for them.
Yeah, but Al Aruba also only one time they were in the top flight, and they have a very young Portuguese coach, Bruno Pereira. So I wonder how they will be doing this time. Usually, these teams will have to dribble their destiny, because history tells us that most of the times the promoted teams will struggle to continue in the ADNOC Pro League. We had Bataya saving themselves 2 seasons ago, but usually history tells us that the promoted teams will eventually go back. So this is one of the intriguing points for me in the season. How well can these two teams do this time around, and how much more they can add to the relegation battle, having in mind that the teams in front of them, that those middle-class teams you just mentioned, also improve their ranks and have a new start coming in for this season. So it's all still to be watched over the upcoming weeks, because again, the transfer window is still open. They will make some adjustments. Let's wait and see to understand their styles. Caio Zanardi is coaching Dibba Al Hassan, so an experienced coach in the ADNOC Pro League for a team that does not have experience. Let's see how this will be.
Ibrahim, let's also look at Corfacan and Al Batay. Corfacan just hung on to survival. They finished, well, bottom of the teams that were going to survive in the division in 12th. Al Batay finished right in the middle of the table, and they were a real surprise package last season. Both of those teams, again, will want to progress. Al Batay, though, really did shock a lot of teams.
Two teams that I like a lot because they're challengers. It's not easy when you play against them. They're very consistent, and every game they play, doesn't matter if you are a big name or not big name, they're coming for that win. So it will be very important for all the teams this season to just be careful from Corfacan. We could see last season what Corfacan did against Jazira. And not only Jazira, some other team also. They have a foundation. They know how to play. They know how to attack. They're not scared to take any risk, so which makes them very dangerous at any time. So, and with the new recruitment they did also, Sultan Shamsi coming from Al Ain, and Brian Ramir, Pedro Pavlov, so many new players, Mohamed Shaker, who was in Al Ain also, to reinforce the defense. So I'm sure it will not be easy for many teams. And the challenges, I say, it's very interesting always to see how they start the game against Al Ain or Jazira. So I wish them, I'm sure they will do good this season.
Let's hope so. Let's look at the 5 managers that have survived the summer break after good seasons last season. Milosevic, of course, you'd hardly expect the champions of the league to change their manager. Hernan Crespo, of course, AFC Champions League winner. Kozmin, who's going to fire him ever? Alfred Schroeder at Al Nassr and Goran Tomic at Al Batay. 5 managers that deserve their time to have another go.
Definitely. Plus, let's not forget about Daniel Isila moving to Corfacan, and also Goran Tufejic moving back to Ajman, where he was very happy a few seasons ago. It's something that did not happen last season, and I'm hoping that will happen this season. More stability, more managerial stability, because I believe that is a key factor for the success of any club in the world.
Okay, let's also look at some of the key fixtures we can expect. We've been through the first 5 games of every team, but these are the ones really that are notable after the first international break when we come back in the 3rd week. Look at those 3 games, all on the same match week. Shabab Al Ahli, Al Wahda, Sharjah, Jazira, and the derby, Wasl, Al Nasr. 5th week already, we have the Classico. 6th week, another big one, Sharjah, Shabab Al Ahli. And in the 7th week, it's another triple header. Al Ain, Shabab Al Ahli, Al Wasl, Al Jazira, Al Nasr, Al Wahda. And these are the games, Amy, that perhaps at this point in the season we can't say they're title deciders, but they are going to be crucial.
Oh, absolutely. You know, if you can rack up the points early on in the season, that always helps you further down the line. I mean, if you look at the likes of Al Wasl versus Al Nasr, that's going to be a huge game because of the changes that Al Nasr have made. And as the reigning champions, Al Wasl need to be really careful that they retain their performance if they want to do it again.
Okay, let's look then at the beginning of the season and week 1 of the new ADNOC Pro League season. It all starts tomorrow. Al Wahda at home against Ajman, and Al Aruba start their top flight status at home against Al Nasr. Both those games kick off 6 o'clock UAE time. That will be hot. And then at 8:30, Al Wasl start the defence of their title away at Kalba. And then moving on to Saturday, 4 more games. Banias Al Jazira, the Abu Dhabi derby. Al Batay away at Shabab Al Ahli. They're the 6 o'clock starts. Corfacan away at the Asian Champions League winners Al Ain, and Dibba Al Hissan start their first ever match in the top flight at home against Sharjah. Those 2 later kickoffs at 8:30. Big starts required from all of these teams, but it's also a bit of a tester, isn't it? A lot of managers will be perhaps still trying out a few things.
Yes, it's that part of the season where you are supposed to do that. I would highlight 2 fixtures there. Big, huge test for Al Wasl at Kalba. It's a very hard away game for Al Wasl. For sure, they want to start with the right foot, or left if it is Fabio Lima, of course. And Banias against Jazira, an Abu Dhabi derby with 2 teams starting a new era. I wonder also how that will unfold. For me, they are the 2 key fixtures, and of course, it's still a period where you will have tests and you will have eventually players that won't continue, other players coming in. Until the 1st of October, still a lot can happen.
Okay, I'm going to put all 3 of them on the spot now and ask them to pick who they think is going to go all the way this season. Listen, it's speculative and nobody's going to hold you to this, although we will record this and play this back at the end of the season. Let's start with you, Pedro. We'll go down the line. Al Wasl, can they defend their title, or who do you see as the big challenges this season?
They can. The biggest challengers for me, Shabab Al Ahli, and I will never rule out Al Ain.
Yeah.
Because of their football heritage and their quality, of course.
Amy, how about you? Who are you thinking? Who have you got your eye on just so far, and a little feeling in the water about who it might be?
I'm going to go Shabab Al Ahli. I feel that with Al Wasl, they may have a few more distractions this season as they are now in the AFC Champions League elite. I think that could just peel them away a little bit.
Ibrahim, I know you have some loyalties to think about as well, but who do you see as going into the season as the strongest on paper at the moment?
You know, Graham, something maybe you guys don't know, it's always difficult for a team that always win the championship to win 2nd time in a row. So that make me a bit doubt that Al Wasl can make it or not. But with the squad that they have, it's possible. And they have a great coach who is young and he has vision and he has great tactics. So I will say with the signing also the new players that are coming in the league, I cannot say specifically a team that will win. But of course, let's not reduce the strength and the power of Al Ain, Shabab Al Ahli, Jazira. So it's open. I cannot. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I cannot give you a name specifically a team that can win. But I'm sure it will be very exciting and interesting season.
Okay, well, that is it for our preview of the season. It all starts tomorrow night, of course. We'll be back here live with coverage of Kalba at home to Al Wasl. Do join us for that. But for now, Let me thank my guests in the studio for a change, all three of you, Ibrahim, Amy and Pedro. Let's look forward to another thrilling and exciting season ahead. But that is the end of our little part of the coverage of the build-up to the start of the ADNOC Pro League. After the break, it is back to Yaqub with more in the start to the great big kickoff tomorrow night.